Any player who comes across this weapon must ask one very simple question, with endless complicated answers. Is your light bright enough to stand, even briefly, in the full gaze of the Hive's abyss? Can it handle what has died and been reborn in those shadows? Eternity is very close. Can you feel yourself slipping? Hi everyone, I'm trying out being on camera more often, so get used to my egg-shaped head. The Hellmouth, a tumultuous pit filled with the echoes of one's past, a proving ground for bands of raiders and a punishing throne for a prince. The Hellmouth is one of Destiny's most oppressive environments. While raiders had been conquering the Vault of Glass, celebrating the takedown of an ancient power, another group of raiders suffered in one of the most horrifying defeats in Destiny history. Welcome to the story of Destiny 2's Forgotten Raid Exotic. Welcome to the story of Necrochasm. I'm gonna level with you guys. I hate being on camera. It's something I get self-conscious about, and I fluctuate in weight more than a Destiny season. Sometimes I'm loaded with too much content, and other times I like to have the quality content that, while not as much, keeps me feeling good. I'm making a change to my life, which I'm already 12 pounds down, so feeling really good. Before you pick up some bad meals that are gonna make your tummy hurt, consider trying out Factor. Factor has these boxes with meals ready to go. You just need to poke the plastic with a fork, microwave it for 2 minutes, let it rest for 1 whole minute, and then you have a full meal ready for you. You may or may not know that I run 2 channels. I stream, I write, I'm always working on something with these channels, and I like to play games, and then of course, I'm starting to work out a lot more. So something like Factor is incredibly important. Making time to make food can be incredibly difficult, but Factor makes it super easy to get that done. The nice part is that you can plan your meals around your goals. So for me, I want to lose weight, so I go for some low calorie and very nutritious and filling meals. Guys, I just really like their stuff. It takes 2 whole minutes to cook a meal, and I feel so much better after I'm done eating it. So the more you guys see me on camera, which you're going to see me a lot more on camera on videos, hopefully the skinnier and more of a change I've made. In Factor, it's going to help me along the way. Here's me in high school. Yeah. Here's me last year. Yeah. And here's me now. Use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use code POGEVANFJEWEL50 for 50% off your first purchase. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. I've learned my lessons about weight loss and weight gain, and if I'm recommending Factor, I think you guys should check it out. Even if you're not sure, clicking the link in the description helps me out a ton. Thank you so much for watching this, and thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video. The Destiny player base's story began on the year of 2014, starting with The Dark Below. Coming off of a mixed reception at the hands of vanilla Destiny 1, The Dark Below was Bungie's first chance at restoring the faith in meaningful content. I've already covered a lot of The Dark Below in my Crota's End video and my Dark Below retrospective, but I never got to talk about the final raid exotic that never returned to Destiny 2. And maybe it will with a Crota's End nod or some kind of love for Crota as a returning raid? Who knows? This exotic weapon has one of the most unique stories to claim it I have ever seen in Destiny, and you either loved or hated the journey of acquisition. Let me start at the beginning. After you beat the campaign of about 3 whole missions, max 5 if you counted those specialty quirky ones from Xur, you could begin the chase. And while I want to give you guys this awesome look back at who was world's first to discover the husk of the pit, I couldn't really find that. I reverse searched it, I went back through different search engines to 2014, and the only mention of beginning this quest was just a few to the point guides. It's not the classic line from Whisper of the Worms, a portal appeared on Io. The quest for Necrochasm was much simpler. So the first step in acquiring this exotic was to spend hours, and I mean hours upon hours, finding and killing Blades of Crota, special majors that dropped Hive swords upon death. The game was pointing players in the direction of killing them, which I can appreciate since Eris had bounties to find and kill them for reputation. The posts about the Husk of the Pit drop rate when doing research were so funny too. You'd have these Reddit posts of people deleting characters because it would up the odds that you would get a common white weapon to drop, even though Husk of the Pit was just a quest item, so it didn't really matter at all. There was a lot of Reddit posts voicing frustration on the drop rate of the quest weapon, except Husk wasn't a normal drop at all. Reactions to eventually getting this weapon were also a bit sparse. It wasn't like the grand reward for beating Destiny, and it didn't have that same power that getting the Galahorn for the first time did. This was an item to begin a quest, but it doesn't mean there weren't reactions.
Let's go! Let's go! Finally! Holy smokes!
The Husk of the Pit is an idea I'd like to see Bungie take another crack at. It was an unbelievably rare drop to start the quest, and more so, it was a quest item that was also in your primary weapon slot, which is something that you don't see too often. Maybe we could use a fishing rod in combat. Husk of the Pit might have been the first time Bungie did a catalyst. You used the weapon, you got kills, and you got some sort of item that was a rare drop to then get more kills and grind for. Yeah, Husk of the Pit was just a catalyst. The fun fact on the weapon was that at some point after update 1.2.0 for House of Wolves, a bug caused Husk of the Pit to no longer drop from the Blades of Crota. Update 1.2.0.5, almost 4 months later, fixed this bug, and to compensate, Bungie increased the drop rates by 150%. Talk about an apology. Husk was one step of the quest and would require 500 hive enemies to kill, which would also popularize the first mission on the moon, leading to the meme of Dinklebot saying,
"We've woken the hive."
Legendary delivery, Dinkster. One other interesting avenue of this weapon, and others we will talk about here, is that the scope is very much a pulse rifle one, but here it's on a high rate of fire auto rifle, which you'll notice in this footage. Destiny 2 does not have auto rifles that fire this fast, and it's probably because the servers would fall apart. No, it's probably because on controller, this thing is impossible to, pun intended, control. But it did a lot of damage, and while on a mouse and keyboard, you could keep this one steady, and it would be very doable, creating an advantage for mouse and keyboard players. Embalming Orb. This orb was needed to slot into the Husk of the Pit as well, once you could purchase it from Eris after upgrading her reputation, maybe hinting that we're building a pulse rifle at the end. The Eidolon Alley needed one final piece to bring this to an exotic, but we'd need to journey down to the pits of the Hellmouth and rip it from Crota in his home to get it. The crux of Crota. Again, experimental, it's one of the reasons I call this Destiny 2's Forgotten Raid exotic. The way to get this final piece took some serious balls from Bungie. It would be easy to get this item from upgrading the Eris reputation to max at a vendor screen, but Bungie didn't do that. Instead, they opted to have this as a rare raid exotic drop, just like Vex Mythoclast from the final raid boss, in this case Crota, and only on hard mode. Trust me, there was a lot of reactions for this one.
Yes.
I'm an imposter. It took me a long time to eventually get the crux of Crota for myself. I can sit here and tell you guys the stories about it, but I didn't have necrochasm for a long time. But once you had it and slotted it into the Eidolon Alley, you had a weapon of sorrow in your hand. Necrochasm. Now the lore on the gun is incredibly well written. The weapons of sorrow were believed to be nothing more than a myth, but even the darkest myths are born of some truths, and whispers of the necrochasm have long filled the light with dread. It is said that necrochasm was born in the twilight after Crota's sword first cracked the moon, that a lost guardian's weapon was altered by the Hive in an attempt to fuse their own dark understanding with humanity's mastery of war. The result was a weapon that would feed onto its owner's aggression, reaching further when angry eyes drew focus, its hunger rising as it tore through bone and flesh. Any guardian who comes across the weapon must ask some very simple questions, with endlessly complicated answers. Is your light bright enough to stand, even briefly, in full gaze of the hive's abyss? Can it handle what has died and been reborn in those shadows? I hate to break it to you guys though, and I know I said that I didn't really have it for a long time, but it doesn't mean necrochasm was great. Sure, it had all the makings of a great exotic from the quest alone, but auto rifles had just been nerfed at this time, and this 900 RPM exotic, which was an arc primary, could only turn headshots into curse thrall explosions, which is a great spectacle, but it was only moderately better than Firefly, which could be on a legendary weapon with explosive rounds, Outlaw, and Firefly. And that weapon's name was Fatebringer. Yeah, it wasn't all that great at first, and that's why Bungie decided to sunset this weapon, just like almost all year 1 exotics and legendaries. But this one would return triumphant in the Age of Triumph. But in Age of Triumph, necrochasm was a bit different. I won't bore you with long exposition, I'll just let the footage of this one take the helm. Okay, so auto rifles were much stronger now, and necrochasm could blow up like a cursed thrall on body shots of anyone who was in your way instead of headshots. The quest to acquire this was also changed a bit, but it isn't too important. What is important is that necrochasm ended its time being a very solid option for PvP, and even decent in PvE. But it ended its time. That's right, this exotic is the last one from raids left in Destiny 1. And of course we know that if Crota's End returns, so does necrochasm in some way. So why does this video say forgotten raid exotic? I just don't think Bungie will bring this thing back the way that people remember it at all. It could be the only one in the game other than, what, Sweet Business and Breakneck at ×3, but none that were 900s before ended up staying that way. I also don't think this will come back in the way the community would rave about, like the Touch of Malice or Vex Mythoclast, because there are just much better options, and without the nostalgic and experimental quest, it loses the charm of earning it. I'll put it like this: if you could get the Regis from Pokemon just by going to a random cave and without a puzzle, would that serve to be something worth remembering nearly as much? Just something to think about. I think that the final reason this one wouldn't return the way we remembered it is that Bungie at this point probably wouldn't require you to complete a master raid to earn the upgrade, right? I would want that, but I'm going to be realistic and look at what history has shown with something like the Vex Mythoclast and its catalyst. So it's really up to Bungie if they want to return the glory of this infamous quest. There was the brand new exotic scout rifle that just came out in Season of the Deep, which had a kind of similar idea, that you got exotic fish that was tied to RNG, and then all of a sudden you're doing this mission for the exotic. And I thought that was a cool concept. However, I don't know if they'll continue to do that with necrochasm, especially when Crota, if it returns, would be the perfect opportunity for them to just slot it at the end of the raid, and put the catalyst in some sort of fun nod to the Husk of the Pit. I don't know. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Camera Shy as always, and of course, this video was made in an effort to address feedback that I asked you guys on how to innovate my content a little bit more. So thank you guys for responding to those things. It means a lot to me, and yeah, on to the next video.